All right, thank you, Keith. All right, so looking at all those dangers that Keith mentioned, and like I said, it may have a bad reputation around your workplace. You may think, oh, so this has some benefits to it, but it's a really high-risk process. And I will say, it's high risk unless you know you're going with a respected vendor on this one. If you go with the wrong vendor, then you're talking about risk. But if you do it the right way, you follow this checklist, you're going to be just fine. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to assemble a checklist here to go through. If you are planning on appending and you're going through different vendors and you're trying to figure out what's the right match for you, feel free to use this checklist. But before we even get to number one, trust your gut on these. Must pass the sniff test and walk away if anything seems fishy. This is, like Keith mentioned, there are some risks to this. You don't want to go with anyone you don't feel 100% comfortable with. This is your data. These are your customers. You want to put yourself in their shoes and make sure that you're treating that data as valuable as you should be, and that you're really taking care of that data and you're going with vendors that you trust. So if anything weird pops out, just walk away. All right, let's look at these. Number one, here's an easy way you can determine the sniff test that I touched upon in those first few slides. Ask them if they'll append a prospect list for you. If they say yes, they're done. You can't go with them. That's against can spam. They're going to give you emails that are just going to be a giant headache. We get calls all the time, people asking us to append prospect lists. We have the same answer every time. We don't do that. We only do customer lists. You have to, when you're appending, you have to go with someone that actually knows you so that you can reintroduce yourself into the relationship. Number two, you want a vendor who matches against 100% opted-in data. You may know your data. You know that your data is spoken for. You know you got it in legitimate ways. But what about your vendor? Are they guaranteeing that their entire database is people who have opted in to receiving marketing emails from people? One way that you can kind of determine this, if they're 100% opted in, make sure that move on to number three, runs all matches through a proven email validation and hygiene solution. This is one of Fresh Address's specialties. You want to make sure that these is not just a pinger. Keith showed a bunch of the other vendors in the space. It's a lot of generalized solutions. It's a lot of people that offer a lot of different things, and email is only a small sliver of that selection. So you want to make sure you're going with someone where email is their specialty and that they have a proven email validation and hygiene solution. You don't want to go with the pingers on this. Some of the pingers will check email deliverability by just going to that email address on the back end, knocking on the door. As long as someone's on the other side, they say, okay, this is deliverable email. But by doing that, they're missing out on the role accounts, on the frequent spam complainers, and especially on spam tracks. So for this, you definitely want to make sure you go with an expert, or you don't even know what you're paying for. All right, next on the list, number four. Like I said, it's a good perk if you can get someone who can send the confirmation messaging for you. These are these initial messages that you send out to get permission. Say, oh, is it okay if we start emailing you? You know us. We've been direct mailing you maybe. So this is a good way to make sure you get the experts on your side, especially if it's your first time doing one of these. You want to make sure that you're that they're helping you out with these permission messaging, because this is where it can get a little bit tricky. This is when you're 90% of the way there. All you got to do is handle this part and make sure your customer feels like you're respecting them in this process. This is where a lot of things can go haywire if you don't do this the right way. I mentioned that can spam says you don't have to do this if you're really following that law, but it's a low bar to clear. So you want to clear that with flying colors. You want to go up and above and beyond and show your customer that, hey, I respect your preferences. Do you want to get emails from us, yes or no? Number five, are they providing the preferred address? So of course everyone's got those old emails, your old AOL account, your old Yahoo account that's just getting pummeled with marketing emails every day probably, but you never check it. So you want to make sure as best you can that these are the preferred addresses, that these look like addresses that are checked off, and that you're getting a good word that you can trust from your vendor that these are going to be addresses where there are active people on the other side. Maybe they have some click data, maybe some ESP data that they can share with you to make sure you're getting a preferred address. 100% deliverability guarantee. This is kind of the big test, right? This is, can they put their money where their mouth is? They're giving you what they say are deliverable email addresses. Will they stand behind them? If you send out an email the next day that you got from one of your vendors and it bounces, are they going to honor that? Are they going to refund you? Are they going to give you a bounce credit? Anything like that? This is, again, this is another perk, but with this checklist, if you can nail all 7 of these, you're going to be happy with your append. Which brings us to finally number 7, do they have a stellar reputation? We're talking about testimonials, we're talking about recognizable brands, case studies, references, anything you can get. Look at reviews online. Do they have a credible client portfolio? All of these things should factor into your decision. Like we said, it can be risky to do this if you're going with the wrong vendor. You want to be really confident in a vendor that knows their stuff, a vendor that's done this before with big companies and they're trusted and reputable businesses.